Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone, to the organizational meeting portion of the evening today for the Council of the City of Lacombe on Monday, October the 23rd. It is now 5:30 p.m. and I will call the organizational meeting to order. And because we have some special guests, I'm going to deviate from our normal procedure and take a moment to bring it to everybody's attention. And on behalf of City Council, it's my pleasure and indeed an honor to welcome the Mayor of Ricabitzu, Mayor Manabu Honda. Welcome. And his official interpreter, Mr. Masatoshi Kitamura. Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you both in our council chambers. And I know this has been a bit of a whirlwind trip, but so glad that you could make it here to be here formally as well. Mayor Honda was recently elected in May of this year as mayor. One of the first orders of business for Mayor Honda rather was to affirm the relationship and return to Lacombe. I think that we should show him our appreciation for his service and join me in congratulating him on his successful bid as mayor. So thank you. I believe it was some 7 years ago when Mayor Honda joined us here in Lacombe, and my wife and I were honored to have him stay with us. It was a very enjoyable time and one that we look back on fondly. Last evening, to welcome our guests, we had Councillors Gullickson, Dallas, and Hoekstra, along with myself, for the welcome reception. Thank you all for making the time to attend the LMC. A bit of history for the twinning. Since 1986, our residents have benefited from a truly special relationship with our sister city in Japan, and we are honored that that legacy carries on this evening. Lacombe City Council values Lacombe's ongoing relationship with our dear friends in Rickabitz, and we look forward to many more years of friendship, goodwill, and respect between our respective communities. Council is grateful for the efforts of the Lacombe and District Ricabitzu Friendship Society, members of which are here this evening. Thank you for attending. Your work has nurtured this ongoing friendship with care and diligence, and has not gone unnoticed by Council. So thank you for all of your efforts. To the citizens on both sides of the Pacific, I thank you for investing in this long-standing and mutually beneficial relationship. Mr. Kitamura and Mayor Honda, we look forward to the day when you will join us here in our city again and in chambers, or when we have the opportunity to be fortunate enough to travel to your beautiful area as well. So if I could have Mayor Honda, please join me at the front. I've got a small presentation I would like to make. We have lots of positive history between our communities. This is a piece of art history in Lacombe. We're very proud of it. I should have it in a spot of your choosing in your city.
We're continuing to look so that we can see it.
I can do a lot of things. Splink is not one of them, but
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Is there another photo?
OK です。
And perhaps more importantly, you should have one of these in front of us.
Yeah.
A little bit there.
Sounds good.
That's even more important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex Hunt, that's in addition of Caligula. Yeah. Opening, please. So we call that the faith means sincerity.
It's beautiful. You can see that as well. We will find a spot of honor for that.
Yes.
OK あえ
Oh,
one sorry
One
one
more story. I thought I'd just jump in for the last second.
Very nice.
And I'm not sure if we necessarily spoke of it, or if you wanted an opportunity to say a few words, that is fine. Do not feel obligated to do so, though. Yes. I believe the camera will point that way as well, so that would be an appropriate spot right where you're at. Mr. Kitamura, if I could just remind Mayor Honda to use the microphone, thank you. And then that way everybody online and in the gallery can hear.
First Japanese and second English. It's okay?
Absolutely, wonderful, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
そしたら全部読んでくれて私が。はい。
本当昨日もやればいいですか
やりますか。
ゆっくりですはいスロー俺皆さん、こんばんは。7年ぶりにラコーム市に来ることができました。
Good evening, everyone. I can come to the city of Lacombe again after 7 years.
1986年7月5日に当時ラコーム町で姉妹友好提携を結び37年の月日が流れました。
In July 1986, the town of Rikubetsu and the city of Lacombe formed a sister city relationship, and 37 years has passed since then.
7年前、ホームステイで大変お世話になったグラント・クレイシー氏がラコーム市長になり、私は今年の5月1日から陸別町長として町民の皆さんと一緒にまちづくりをすることになり、運命というか感慨深いものがあります。
7 years ago, Mr. Grant Creasy, who took care of me during my homestay, became the mayor of Lacombe City. I became a mayor of Rikubetsu town on the May 1st of this year, and will work with the town residents to create better town.
陸別町は2200人ほどの町で、日本一寒い町であります。
Rikubetsu Town is a town of about 2,200 people and is the coldest town in Japan.
寒さを生かしたイベント、氷の鎌倉で一晩過ごすという陸別町最大のイベント、しばれフェスティバルは40年も続いており、日本一の寒さということで、日産自動車株式会社のテストコースもあります。
The Shibare Festival, the largest event in the town, has been held for 40 years and involved spending a night in an ice igloo. There's also test ground for the Nissan Motor Company due to the extreme cold.
昨日の夕方の5時に、来まして、明日の朝5時に、日本陸別町に出発します。
We arrived here at 5 p.m. yesterday, and we leave here at 5 a.m. early in the morning tomorrow.
大変短い時間でありましたが、すごくいい時間を過ごさせていただいております。これからもですね、ラコーム市の皆さんと有意義な時間を過ごしたいなと思っております。これからラコーム市と末永く国際交流を続けていきたいと思っておりますので、どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Our stay is very short, but it's really, really beneficial and grateful. I hope we can continue to have international exchange with Lacombe City for the long time to come. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you both. I think that your commitment to our ongoing relationship is very obvious. To have been willing to withstand some 50 hours of international travel back and forth to be here for a day and a half is quite remarkable. We appreciate it. Just so everyone knows, we had a good conversation yesterday and today both, and it's amazing to learn that the challenges that are put forth for communities across the world from COVID have particularly been perhaps a little stronger in Rikubets, and they also are faced with a declining population, which adds additional stresses to any community, and theirs is no different. So we really appreciate your effort in being here and the honesty that you always bring. So I understand that you're off for a bite to eat this evening, thanks to the Friendship Society here, and we wish you all the best. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm going to see you off at 5 a.m., but I hope that you have a pleasant journey, and it was an absolute pleasure seeing you once again, and look forward to our next visit. Thank you. And now we can continue with business, everyone. With respect to the adoption of the agenda for our organizational meeting, we should have a motion, please. Councillor Gullickson. Oh, I'm sorry, I saw you going for your mic, and Councillor Dallas.
As a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Please go ahead and vote. And I expect that will light up in green here shortly. We'll keep it official. And that is unanimously in favor. Thank you. Under new business, we're going to start out with our meeting dates. And I understand that Coordinator Bellabono will be leading the majority of these points. So please proceed with item 3.1.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. This evening, we are presenting the 2024 council meeting dates held on the second and fourth Monday of the month at 5:30 p.m. No public notice is required based on the MGA 193 and procedural bylaw section 6.5. The committee of the whole meetings are usually on the first Monday of the month and scheduled based on business needs. Recommendations for the November 2023 to 2024 schedule is that regular council meetings continue with the existing schedule, except suggest canceling meetings on June 24th and July 22nd for a summer break. The committee of the whole meetings suggest dates are November 20th, 2023 for reviewing the encroachment policy, August 12th, 2024 as a substitute for a regular meeting for a pre-budget presentation, and October 7th, 2024 for internal and external organization budget presentations. The recommendations from administration this evening is that council approve the regular and committee council meeting dates from November 2023 to October 2024 as presented. Incorporating these changes aligns with our bylaws and allows for more efficient schedule. I am open for council's feedback or questions.
Appreciate that, Coordinator Bellabono. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm questioning the fact that we have just one regular meeting in each June, July, and August. It seems to me that at least one of those meetings was exceptionally long, and I'm wondering at the wisdom of making that second meeting in August a committee of the whole meeting. Seems to me that it would be more practical to actually just make that a regular meeting, and maybe it's just very limited in nature. If you're going to have a meeting anyways, why don't we make it a regular meeting, and then you have the ability to add items as necessary. Without pulling up, I don't remember which meeting it was, but I do recall, and I'm sure everyone does recall, that we had an exceptionally long meeting, and it feels like because you have such few opportunities to deal with information that I just would rather avoid that, because it is difficult for everybody involved, counselors after a full day, as well as administration having to make potentially big decisions really late into the evening. So just for consideration.
Thank you for that. I guess the one other item I know we've got in our bylaws that when our scheduled meeting is on a holiday Monday, it goes to Tuesday. And I just wanted to verify that that was not disruptive to anybody's schedules. I know we've got lots of committee meetings and whatnot, and quite often they have ongoing dates as well, and sometimes those can conflict. So would it be helpful to anyone to have them either on the Monday previous or after that date as opposed to a Tuesday? Or are we all fine with that? I don't see anybody jumping on board here, so and that's fine. I just wanted to bring it up because I know we've had in the past, and I think that we also need to be cognizant of the fact that we can change these. We want to have as many correct as we can, but as far as the order of business for those 3 months in the summer, was there one of those dates that we recalled that was particularly hectic, as was referred to by Councillor Hibbs? CEO Gowdy?
I don't remember the exact one, but I can corroborate one of them was a very long meeting. I don't think it would be always the July or always the August one, though. I think that is a problem. That's a factor to consider when going down to one meeting over the summer. There is a trade-off with them being longer meetings. So the August conversion of a committee to a regular meeting would perhaps address that, as Councillor Hibbs has suggested.
Very good. So I certainly have no problem with it. The vast majority of us are here for those meetings anyway, and it just gives the option. That's not to say that we need to have them jam-packed full of business. If in fact there is not any pressing business, we can still use them as an information gathering one. But I think that's a pretty wise decision. So was it the earlier one that would be preferable, or the August that we would like to consider this time? August 12th. So let's move that August 12th one then to a regular meeting, unless anybody has any strong objection. Does anyone else have any input on any of those dates this time? If not, then we could have a motion, please. Councillor Conick.
Mayor Creasy, I would move that council approve regular and committee council meeting dates from November 2023 to October 2024 as amended.
Very good. And as I said earlier, this is our best estimate at this time. That's not to say that things can't change in the future. However, it does present some legislative challenges when we go changing too many. So if there's anything that needs to change as we move forward, please do so as soon as possible, as opposed to leaving it to far too late when it just makes it very hectic for staff. Anything else on meetings? Seeing none, please go ahead and vote. Staff is right on top of things here. They even had it worded as amended, so thank you for that. And item 3.2, the deputy mayor roster next. Please, Coordinator Malabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. The deputy mayor roster proposed this evening is for council's approval for the period spanning from November 23rd, 2023 to October 2024. The City of Lacombe, in accordance with its procedural bylaw and Municipal Government Act, mandates the appointment of one or more councillors as deputy mayor to ensure that the office of the deputy mayor is consistently filled. Attached, you will find the proposed roster for deputy mayors. The roster is based on a 2-month rotation, which will be activated if the mayor is unavailable from November 2023 to October 2024. We seek council's approval of the proposed deputy mayor roster from November 2023 to October 2024 as presented.
Thank you. Anyone any input on this item? If not, if we could have a motion, please, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I don't have any comments, so I move that council approve the proposed deputy mayor roster from November 2023 to October 2024 as presented.
Thank you. Any additional input? I believe there is. Please go ahead and vote. That is approved unanimously. Thank you. Councillor appointments to commissions, boards and committees. Item 3.3 is up next. Please, Coordinator Malabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. The request for council approval, appointments and commissions. Administration is seeking council approval for the 2023 to 2024 councillor appointments and reappointments to council commissions, boards and committees in accordance with the council's procedural bylaw, section 6.79. Committee members are to be appointed by council at the annual organizational meeting. Attached are the proposed reappointments and an additional new board. The Berman School of Business Advisory Board requested for council's consideration. The Berman School of Business Advisory Board is requesting council's consideration to appoint a council member to this board, aligning with council's strategic goal to grow the community and support economic development. In the membership, the board will include diverse community members, not exceeding 20 representatives. Their role will be advisory, with meetings held biannually or as needed. The next meeting dates for the commission boards and committees are provided for reference.
Appreciate that. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just as Councillor Conick and I discussed earlier, there was a correction that a motion was voted upon in the organizational meeting in 2022 that on the Lacombe Days Committee that I was assuming that role, and it's still down as Councillor Conick.
That's on the second or third page of our notes here. There's FCSS. Underneath the FCSS Lacombe Days Committee. Thank you for that. And so if we'd care to strike off Councillor Conick and replace it with Councillor Ross, I'm assuming that is okay with both of you. Is that a correction? Thank you for noticing that. So the other item on there is the new board. And normally when it comes to appointments, I like to take some time and try and balance workloads and a number of factors. However, this one coming on partway through a term is a little different. And I thought it would be nice to give the opportunity to anyone on council who would choose to serve on this board, give you that opportunity and see how it goes from there. If there's anybody that is so inclined, I think that it would be a very interesting one, and that is relatively young in its development, so it's open to perhaps some molding and whatnot to suit its board members. So something for everyone to consider. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of lights going on other than Councillor Hibbs, but I look forward to your input on that item as well. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm not sure if the intention was to ideally appoint someone tonight, but I would definitely like to put forward my name for that position. I think that I would be a good fit for that, particularly in my role with ECHO Lacombe, which is our economic development board. I think that would be a nice pairing with this advisory committee. So I would definitely appreciate being considered for that appointment.
Wonderful, thank you. And Councillor Hoekstra.
I was just going to say I'm interested too, but I certainly don't. I mean, if Councillor Hibbs is interested, that's great.
And I think this is a wonderful situation to be in, to have more than one candidate, so that is fine. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm interested in that too, so I think we should have an election on that. And Ruben is also, but I think it's a great committee, and I think whoever you select will do a great job. And I think all of our experiences on these boards and what we've done in life will be welcome to that committee for sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Connick's not forthcoming with the light. So I'm going to be honest with you. This is as perfect an outcome as I could have hoped for. And I think just shows to our community the interest that we have in serving our citizens and making our community better. So to have 3 interested parties is wonderful. That puts me in an interesting situation. So I think I'm going to take a day or two and have a little discussion with each of the members and make a decision that'll be brought forward to the next meeting, ensuring a few things, one of which is availability for meetings and how it suits each individual's schedule. But thank you, all 3 of you, for stepping forward. That's great to see. And was there any of the other items on there that required adjustment or correction? If not, we could use a motion. Councillor Hoekstra.
Sorry, Mayor Creasy, I could make the motion, but the motion that in the request for decision does say already as amended. So something has changed that maybe we haven't highlighted. Is that correct?
Well, certainly the one thing that was amended was the correction that Councillor Ross brought forward, and it will be an amendment. I think that is a reasonable expectation that the appointment to the Berman committee will be forthcoming at a later date. Was there any other items as well, Coordinator Bellabona, or no?
No, Mayor Creasy, it was just in anticipation that someone would be selected this evening.
Very good. Councillor Conick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think I've answered this in my head already, but as far as the Lacombe Police Commission is concerned, I guess we have to wait till that that bylaw has been, thank you.
That's correct. And there will be some adjustment there as well. You bet. Councillor Hoekstra?
I will make that motion that council approve the 2023-2024 councillor appointments to council commissions, boards, and committees as amended according to Lacombe Days, but omitting Furman University School of Business
Until a later date.
until a later date.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone have anything else on that item? We did have some adjustments there, so we'll give administration a moment to ensure that that is completed as read. Councillor Hibbs has a comment. Please go ahead.
Sure. So it doesn't really pertain to the motion itself, but it is part of the background information. Just under the Echo Advisor, or sorry, the Echo Lacombe Association Board, it talks about the councillors being in a advisory capacity, and actually on the board, I'm a voting member. So just a small correction in the information, just for future reference.
Wonderful. We'll have that typo taken care of so it's portrayed correctly to the public. Thank you. Right. And given that our voting machines truncate longer motions, I'm going to put it to administration. Is that been corrected to the proper wording, or are we still in process? It has been corrected or updated? Okay. I'm not pushing, just asking. My apologies for not saying anything, but if I speak, then it messes up the reading of that, and that is the way it was intended. So please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimously in favor. Thanks, everyone. Everybody's favorite, the next one, item 3.4, councillor seating arrangements. Coordinator Bellabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and council. This council seating arrangements for October commencing November 14th, 2023, is council meeting until the next organizational meeting tentatively scheduled for October 23rd, 2024, which we've recently adopted, is up for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. So I see we've decided to put perhaps Legislative Coordinator Bellabono beside yourself.
Correct.
I'm just wondering, I have some thoughts on that, but I'm just wondering if someone could tell me why, and then I'll have some thoughts. Thank you.
I would be happy to. That was at my request. There's been several instances throughout the year of meetings when it is rather cumbersome to have information flow back and forth between the coordinator when I need it, and information that's required to keep the meeting moving ahead in a smooth manner when she is seated that far away. One can argue that it can be done electronically, but given the challenges of chairing a meeting, I don't find that to be particularly useful. So that was the reason for that adjustment.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate that. I'm not so, when we were first elected, Mayor Christie, you recall that the mayor was flanked by the legislative coordinator and the CEO at that time. I always thought there was a bit of a disconnect between mayor and the rest of the council at that time. just with the individuals on either side. I kind of like the format that we have now where council's front and center. I can appreciate the reasons why you would like to have the legislative coordinator be next to you. But I'd like to leave it the way it is. I don't have a problem moving councilors around, but I think council should be front and center. If you watch a video of a council meeting after the fact, the only people in the video are actually us council. For whatever reason, it cuts off the CAO and coordinator Billabong and everyone else for that matter. And I just fear that if we were to adopt this, that there would be a counselor in the dark all the time. And I don't think that's particularly great either. So that's just another concern that I had. So yeah, I would say I'm not in favor. But I guess I'd like to hear what everyone else is thinking.
Thank you for that. Certainly fair comments. It may ease some of those concerns to know that there is some adjustments underway with the camera inclusion, because I think it's an issue regardless of how we proceed with that, that some people or some seats are left out. And I'm not, my AV technical ability is not great, but that's what I am told, is that there is an upgrade coming so that everyone can be included. So perhaps that will help. And I appreciate your comments about the way things were done previously. And that was in fact why the CAO was not included in moving front and center as well. Or whatever that explanation is worth. Okay, very good. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I guess I do appreciate what you're asking in terms of the legislative coordinator, just for that assistance. And I appreciate Councillor Connick's comments. I am chuckling here because those are the comments I made, that some of this move was deliberate to maybe kind of get me out of the picture. But I know it wasn't, but it was fun to really play with that. But I agree, it's not, if the camera isn't going to change, then I do protest this move just from the optics. Like, why would we have no matter who it is, why would we exclude one councillor from the camera view? So thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Connick.
Anyone else? Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I am like Councillor Connick. I totally understand and hear your reasons why you would feel that the legislative coordinator might be better served to be sitting next to the mayor. But still, given I don't support that. I like the way that it is right now. I definitely echo Councillor Connick's viewpoint that council should remain united and even and equal in its seating arrangement the way that it's arranged now, and leaving our admin support very important. But I do believe that they are in the right position the way they are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. If there's any concerns regarding that seat that'll be off camera, I'll take it. Just for the to keep the peace. I have no issue with that, and I'm sure that with the changes to the cameras, everybody will be on there. And I understand your concerns where you're dealing with papers, and that information should be close to you, and I support that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, I mean, certainly I considered the points that were made here this evening, and I would suggest that maybe it is not a perfect situation. I'm not sure one that exists given the configuration that we have. I mean, there's lots of differing arrangements in other communities, in other city halls, some of which have administration that is down below front and center. I mean, there's lots of differences. Just in this instance, for efficiency, I would certainly like to see it go that way. I am not interested in, however, excluding anybody either from conversation nor from the camera and recording. So would it alleviate those concerns if we had a chance to perhaps postpone any new arrangement until such time as the camera work was in place and you had a chance to evaluate it and then consider it after that? Would that be amenable? I'm seeing some head nodding because, yeah, the same thoughts went through my mind. So I think that's something that we can certainly do, and organize down the road, so to speak. CAO Gaudi, is that a reasonable request? I feel as though it is, because it is a genuine concern that someone may be excluded unnecessarily.
Yes, I'm just confirming what is required to get the additional seats in. We won't be able to go beyond kind of the break, but I know we are able to include the seats currently occupied by Legislative Coordinator Bella Bono and myself. And so that can be done with the existing infrastructure. Mr. Dunlop, yes. So that can be done at any time. It's a matter of software programming, and so we could have that in place for the next meeting if you'd like to show the full U shaped here.
Very good. And I'm not suggesting that the current arrangement is totally dysfunctional or anything like that. I just think that there's room for improvement for that one item that I went over. So if we could perhaps postpone that proposed seating arrangement approval until such time as we had an opportunity to see the outcome, and that way everybody can be on board with it and we can move forward with it hopefully at that time. Very good. So perhaps a little adjustment on this one for a motion, but if someone would care to make one, either to receive his information or yeah, that might be as easy as any, but however you see fit as the mover, I would appreciate it. Councillor Dallas.
So thank you, Mayor Creasy. So sorry, I heard another word there as well, postpone. Would that be more fitting, or just say receive his information and postpone? Or
As a mover, I think they both work. There's
Okay.
nothing wrong with postponing to a later date, but whichever you'd prefer.
sounds good. Motion to postpone decision until our next meeting.
Very good with that time frame. Is that a reasonable one to work within CAO Gaudi?
Yes, I've confirmed with our IT department that we're able to make that change anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you. Just give administration a moment to update the electronics on that motion and then proceed. I think it's these moments of silence that has to be interesting for individuals who choose to watch online. They're thinking, so is everybody awake on the end there, or what's going on? But all good things take a little time. So, and I think that is up for your vote now and worded correctly. So please go ahead and vote now. Voted in favor unanimously. Thanks, everyone. The next item up is our council code of conduct. We have a verbal review by CAO Gaudi.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Recently, council was at a training session, and there was discussion that it is a good practice to go through the council code of conduct policy annually at the organizational meeting. And they actually also discussed the idea of a council signing off on the code of conduct policy in some way to demonstrate their commitment. We haven't brought that practice into council, but that's something certainly you're free to explore if you are interested. I'm just going to go over very high level. If there is something you'd like to review in more detail, we can do that either this evening or in a future council meeting as you see fit. So the Council Code of Conduct bylaw is a requirement of the Municipal Government Act These are requirements that came in approximately 4 years ago, and it is currently bylaw 459. The City of Lacone's Council Code of Conduct bylaw is based on the Alberta Municipalities template that was created at the time when this legislation came into effect. And so it is fairly standard boilerplate language. So I'll just go through at a high level what the different sections are, so that if you are having a question and wanting to look, you'll know where to find that information. And often it will actually point you to other legislation as well. So this is a good jumping off spot. But I would say if you are having some questions about Council's Code of Conduct, please reach out. I'd be happy to either answer your question or put you in contact with someone that can. So number 4, I'll skip over the first few sections of definitions and whatnot. Representing the municipality. So there, of course, this just speaks to your duty to represent the interests and welfare of all members of the community and not a subset of the community. Communicating on behalf of the municipality is section number 5, and I find this is a section that sometimes does cause some friction. Most people are well aware that the mayor is the chief elected official and is designated to represent the views of council as a whole. So the mayor is the council's official spokesperson, and in his absence, the deputy mayor. But one thing that I think is important to remember, that this is related to inquiries from the media regarding the official council position on an issue. That is not to say that if someone calls you about, actually, Councillor Hoekstra had a great example recently. Notice a motion that she put forward, and a member of the media contacted her and said, "Hey, can I speak to you about this?" And that's fine. You're free to express your views as an individual councillor, as long as you don't hold them out as the views of council. And so I think that is an important distinction. You're free to speak your mind and speak about your position. And you can even, as the mayor, for example, you can even say, actually, this is the decision of council. They chose to go with white trucks for the city's fleet. I actually supported blue trucks because I, for whatever reason, prefer that. But ultimately, council decided that the resale value and the ability to acquire white trucks is easier. And so that's why they went with it. And that would be perfectly fine. As long as you're presenting a balanced view and talking about why the decision was made, it's fine to speak about what you as an individual councillor believe and why you believe that. Not just fine, you should do that. Respecting the decision-making process. And so here, the important one is under 6.1, the decision-making authority lies with council and not with any individual member of council, whether the mayor or an individual councillor. You act as a whole, and that's an important aspect of your governance. Adherence to policies, procedures, and bylaws. It's a fairly straightforward one that I would draw your attention to. It hasn't been an issue here, but I know it has in other communities. A member must not encourage disobedience of any bylaw, policy, or procedure of the municipality. So even if you disagree with something and think, oh, the right decision may be to ignore that, that is something you can keep to yourself, ideally, because it does encourage lawlessness and disrespect of the municipal bylaws. No member shall use indecent, abusive, or insulting words or expressions towards other members. I would also say, again, not that there's been an issue with this, but to watch for vulgar language, cursing, that sort of thing. It just brings the decorum down a bit. 8.6 is one that I like to draw council's attention to whenever I get the opportunity, and so I will. Members must not give any directions to any employee or contractor of the city other than the CAO, either publicly or privately. Members must not involve themselves in matters of administration which fall within the jurisdiction of the CAO, and you can see what that jurisdiction is in the CAO bylaw or the MGA. And members must not use or attempt to use their authority or influence for the purpose of basically influencing any employee of the municipality in their actions. Members must keep in confidence matters discussed in private at a council or council meeting until the matter is discussed at a meeting held in public. Conflicts of interest come up from time to time. It here references Part 5, Division 6 of the Act, and it also speaks to a corresponding duty to vote unless you are required or permitted to abstain under the Act or some other enactment. So sometimes there is a tendency of councillors to sort of err on the side of caution and say, well, you know, my friend is employed at this company and people would think I would be influenced by that. So I'll abstain from this vote. That's actually not allowed. Friend is not a protected pecuniary interest. It's only family members or the employer of a individual member of council. Use of municipal assets and services. This has never been an issue, but I did see that actually councillor in Alberta, actually the mayor, sorry, did just get sanctioned for attempting to use municipal heavy equipment actually for his own purposes. And so I would point out there is no ability to use municipal property for personal purposes, the same as for staff. These are public assets that are only to be used for their intended purposes. Now, we do have the formal complaint process outlined in section 14. This is a standard, this is the standard template that was developed at the time. There's been challenges across the province encountered with applying this. Having said that, I have also not heard of any municipality that says, oh, we've got a great formal complaint process that's really clear and, you know, covers every situation really well. Having said that, if council would like to review that complaint process or the investigation process, we would be happy to do so. And this is the section we would review. Other than that, there are the compliance and enforcement measures that are available to council when there has been a contravention. These are largely aligned with the MGA, so there's very little actually ability to add or subtract from them, but they are listed there for your reference. Is there any question or direction as to possible amendments that council would like to consider for the bylaw?
Thank you for that, CEO Gowdy. It's one of the benefits of belonging to organizations such as the Mid-Sized City Mayors Caucus, where we can discuss some of the challenges that go along with these types of things. And I can tell you that our community is very well served by the individuals in this room and the legislation that we have outlining our conduct and behavior. Unfortunately, that does not hold true everywhere. And I think this is necessary. And I for one, I guess was one of the individuals that did take that course. I live at a Alberta Munis convention. I think that by all of us signing that, I don't think annually is a problem, or at least endorsing it each year. Don't need a mountain of paperwork for everyone, but is a wise idea. I think it just refreshes in everybody's mind that we're all governed by rules for proper behavior in this room and outside, and how we represent ourselves to the public is in fact important. So yeah, I would like to see that come about. I also want to recognize the fact that we do have some legislative work coming forward in the not too distant future, a workshop and whatnot. So we may be better suited, in fact, to wait until after that to make too many substantive changes. I think that might hold some value in that for our consideration in any event. But Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess I'm wondering if the CEO is our employee of the council for more or less. I have a question for direction of complaint. I thought when Mayor Creasy and I were in that same session, there was an area I thought I located on our own that the complaint was to go to the mayor. And is it appropriate? I think Because it put the CEO in an awkward position to be dealing with your employer actually indirectly than like the process. I guess I just, I thought we found an area in the bylaw that it stated that the complaint to go to the mayor, not the CAO.
Yes, we do have that. Councillor Ross, if I go to section 14B, it states that all complaints shall be addressed to the investigator. And the investigator is defined in section 2 as the mayor, deputy mayor, council, or the individual or body established by council to investigate and report on complaints. And so in any past instances where a complaint went to the CAO, that would have been an error. That would have, it ought to have gone to the mayor, deputy mayor, council, or some other agency identified by council. And so I think that there has been an error in the past with that process. Your current bylaw does specify the mayor.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm very good. No problem. Councillor Conick.
Mayor Christie, I see within the agenda package, there's no motion attached to this. Are we accepting this as information or just nothing?
Certainly, if you make a motion to do so, we are. I just think that I saw some heads nod in agreement that perhaps we would be well served to wait until after our legislative workshop to make many changes as opposed to doing it multiple times in case some would arise. Certainly, if anybody has any others that they want to put forth as areas of interest or direct changes, you can certainly free to do so. But not seeing a bunch of lights going on for receiving his information. Would be a little awkward to leave it hanging with nothing. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Motion to receive. Sorry, my apologies as I scroll up. Receive bylaw 459 as information.
The council code of conduct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Does anybody have anything they'd care to add at this time? In that case, please go ahead and vote when it comes up on your machines. That's a very good reminder for council to keep on time. And I think that is ready for your vote now. And that is in favor unanimously as well. Coordinator Balabono, the last item under new business for this meeting is item 3.6, a procedural bylaw 370 review.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. This evening, administration is presenting a proposed council procedural bylaw 370 review. Bylaw 370 is commonly reviewed at the beginning of each council term and was last amended in November 2021. During the first 2 years of this term, administration has been tracking ambiguities in the language, areas that need modifications to language, procedures, the removal of sections that are outdated or redundant, and additional sections needed to address emerging needs, changes in governance practices, or specific aspects that were not previously covered in the current bylaw. This review is essential to ensure that all members of council are well informed about the bylaw and can adhere to its processes and procedures. It's also an opportunity to make necessary updates for more effective governance. The proposed amendments to the procedural bylaw number 370 can be categorized into 3 sections for your consideration. clerical corrections or clarifications, changes or deletions of existing sections, and additional sections. These categories provide a structured approach to reviewing and updating the existing procedural framework. This approach aligns with our goals for procedural clarity, effectiveness, and adaptability. In conclusion, with Council having the opportunity to attend the Parliamentary Procedures Workshop at the beginning of December, administration is looking for a recommendation to return the proposed procedural bylaw 370 amendments after the December 4th Council Workshop for Council's decision and input. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I've had the good fortune of already having attended a workshop by the person that will be doing the one for council, and I'm really looking forward to everybody attending and getting as much out of that as I got out of the one that I attended. I think that what's being brought here by administration about the idea of reviewing procedural 370 after that session is a very wise, I guess, advice, because it is very enlightening. I think that the opportunity to have that workshop and will definitely make you think about the way that we do things differently. And I think this is a great opportunity. So I'd like to go ahead and make that motion that council directs administration to return the proposed procedural bylaw 370 amendments after the December 4th, 2023 council workshop for council discussion and input. I do hope that everybody's able to make that. There's some additional things that I definitely have in the back of my mind that are not covered in this memo. Something actually that's relevant that we even just discussed earlier today in this meeting, but I won't get into it because we'll have that discussion then. But the motion is as presented.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very good. Please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimously voted in favor as well. Thank you. So that does bring us down to our one and only in-camera item, a labor item under Freedom of Information and Protection Act number 17. So I'm going to assume that that is a relatively short item. So I would just ask that the gallery be cleared accordingly and we can entertain a motion for in-camera. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, McCreasy. I move that we move in camera.
Thank you. Any comment? Please go ahead and vote. And the record can reflect, thank you, that we went into in camera at 6:34. That is unanimously in favor. as well. So we're now out of in camera. Do we have any motions to put forward? Councillor Ross?
Okay, so I get started. The council approved the reappointment of Sydney, is it Ducharme or Ducarme? Ducharme to the Affordable Housing Strategy Steering Committee with a term starting January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Thank you. The input? Please go ahead and vote. Unanimously in favor? Councillor Gullickson?
I'll make the motion that council approve the reappointment of Bradley Freeman to the Affordable Housing Strategy Steering Committee with a term starting January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Any input? Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimous in favor. Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council approve the reappointment of Suni Milestad to the Lacombe Public Library Board with a term starting January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2026.
Thank you. Any comments? Please go ahead and vote. In favor, unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I move that council approve the appointment of William Langeal to the Lacombe Public Library Board with a term starting October 24th, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Anyone? Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimous in favor. Thank you. Councillor Connick?
Thank you. I would so move that council approve the appointment of Rosemary Welch to the Lacombe Public Library Board with a term starting January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Thanks, Councillor Connick. Any comments? Seeing none, please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimous in favor as well. Councillor Dallas?
Thank you. Move that council approve the appointment of Victoria Phelp to the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan Advisory Committee with a term starting October 24th, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024.
Thank you. Comments? Please go ahead and vote. And that item, appointment rather, is in favor unanimously as well.
Starting it again.
Councillor Ross?
I move the council approve the appointment of Chris Contenti to the Municipal Planning Commission with the term starting October 24th, 2023, ending October 23rd, 2026.
Thank you. Anyone? Please proceed with vote. And that is in favor unanimously as well. Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that council approve the reappointment of Cameron Penstone to the Lacombe Police Commission with a term starting January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2026.
Thank you for that. And please go ahead and vote. That is unanimously voted in favor as well. So just a moment, I just want to thank everyone. This is an unusually large amount of appointments, and we certainly do appreciate all those citizens willing to step up and serve their community and make Lacombe even better. So thank you all. And I expect that you'll be having confirmation letter delivered in short order. So thanks again. I believe that concludes business as far as the organizational meeting is concerned. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we adjourn the organizational meeting.
Very good. It's 6:43 for the record. Not seeing any other input, so please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimously in favor as well. We are adjourned from our organizational meeting. I was informed that administration will need a few moments to make system adjustments to continue with our regular agenda package. So if they could just prompt me when they have performed all the necessary electronic adjustments, and then we can proceed. We do have some individuals here who I expect are probably here for the public hearings, and I appreciate your patience acknowledging that tonight is in fact an organizational meeting and the regular meeting. And I know that it was initially scheduled for 6 p.m. However, that is a minimum as early as it can start. We are permitted to start it later, so it's certainly still within MGA requirements. And however, respective of your time, I do appreciate your patience. I've just received notice that the adjustments as far as the on-air portion, the recording, are underway. Coordinator Bellabona, was there any other items that we need to hold off for? Or can we proceed? Very good. Thanks for everyone's patience. We welcome you to the regular meeting agenda for the City of Lacombe Council meeting for Monday, October 23rd. It is now 6:46 p.m. Following our organizational meeting. If you're curious as to the time frame difference, we appreciate your patience. And I'll call the meeting to order. Council, we've got a consent agenda before you there. Any items that we want to consider for removing from that agenda? Either that or we would need a motion, please. Councillor Connick.
So move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? We're fine with the items in there. Very good. Please go ahead and vote. And that is in favor unanimously. Thanks, everyone. With respect to the adoption of the overall agenda. Councillor Hoekstra,
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
thank you. I see no additional input. Please go ahead and vote. If I'd click my right portion, we could proceed, I'll bet. Thank you. Amazingly enough, that is unanimous as well. The agenda is adopted. Thank you. We're going to proceed to our public hearings. At this time, we've got item 5.1, bylaw 405.3, the municipal development plan, or MDP as it's referred to, amendment, and bylaw 267.5, the North Area Structure Plan, abbreviated as NASP amendment as well. And I think joining us online, we have Vahid Komashi in person. Wonderful. Perhaps you'd care to come up front and join us in the hot seat here. Just want to check with Ordinary Bellabonus, so we're undertaking these simultaneously, correct? I just want to be certain with that. Very good. Very good. So with respect to the public hearing for the municipal development plan and North Area Structure Plan, I, as mayor, declare that the statutory public hearing for bylaw 405.3 and bylaw 267.5 open, and that this hearing is held pursuant to sections 7, 8, 230, 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act 2000 as amended, and request the legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of this public hearing, that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are now read into the record.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the general public to provide input to the proposed amendment bylaw 405.3 and bylaw 267.5, given first readings September 25th, 2023. Bylaw 405.3 proposes to amend municipal development plan, the municipal development plan, and bylaw 267.5 proposes to amend the North Area Structure Plan. If approved, bylaw 405.3 will amend the municipal development plan bylaw 405 by replacing map 1 with a revised map that shows the proposed land use from multi-residential lands to general residential lands. If approved, bylaw 267.5 will amend the North Area Structure Plan bylaw 267 by replacing figure 4 with the revised map showing the proposed future use from multi-residential lands to general residential lands. The subject site legally described as lots 8 and 9, block 7, plan 0422116 is outlined in the dashed line on the map shown on page 43 of the agenda. Per section 606 of the MGA requirements for advertising, a public hearing notice was advertised as shown on page 43 of the agenda in the Lacombe Express Thursday, October 5th, 2023 and Thursday, October 12th, 2023. Mayor Creasy and Council, 3 written submissions were received and are all included in the agenda package. The city received 2 registrations from members of the public to speak this evening.
Thank you. I was just going to say we're not exactly overrun with attendees for tonight's proceedings. However, I would like to remind that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name and presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order of the statutory public hearing presentation will be as follows. First, the development officer or designate, followed by those in favor and those opposed, and then any person that is deemed to be affected and who wishes to be heard. So given that, I would call upon our designated individual from PCPS, and I'm going to have you state your name so that I do not misstate it twice in one evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councillor. My name is Vahid Kumashi, and I'm senior planner with the PCPS. And I'm happy to have presentation here about this report and the amendments. The proposed amendments of the project of these amendments is to change the current land use of the subject site in the municipal development plan and North Area Structure Plan from multi-residential to general residential to allow single detached dwelling development on the site. The subject site is located at 4902 and 4722 Beardsley Avenue, south of Henner's Pound and north of Beardsley Avenue. The subject land is legally described as Lot 8 and 9, Block 7, Plan 0422116. Under the City of Lacomb's land use bylaw, Lot 8 is currently zoned R4, referred to residential mixed, and Lot 9 is currently zoned R5, residential multi-unit dwelling. If approved, the proposed amendments to the MDP and North Area Structure Plan, in the next steps, the applicant process to amend the College Height Outline Plan and the City Land Use Bylaw later to rezone those lots to R1, Residential Detached District. Just to have a planning discussion, this is Alberta planning framework. This slide shows the hierarchical relationship between different planning documents in Alberta planning system in accordance with the Alberta Municipal Government Act. According to this system, a land use bylaw and an outline plan must be consistent with the relevant area structure plan and municipal development plan and any relevant intermunicipal development plan in respect of land that is identified in both municipalities' MDP. Accordingly, in order to amend the land use bylaw and the College Height Outline Plan, amendments to MDP and North Area Structure Plan are required. So this report requests amendments to the MDP and NASP, North Area Structure Plan. Amendments to College Height Outline Plan will be presented through a separate report for consideration if MDP and NASP amendments are approved. This slide shows the bylaw 401.3 proposes amendment to the MDP by replacing map 1 in the MDP with the revised map that shows the proposed land use amendments from multi-residential land to general residential lands. There are no other changes to the MDP. The other slides shows the proposed amendments to North Area Structure Plan, Bylaw 267, by replacing map 1 with the revised map that shows the proposed amendments from multi-residential lands to general residential lands. Again, there are no other changes to NASP. Before the first reading, the applicant, in collaboration with the city, organized a public open house to share information about the proposal with public and receive comments and concerns and answer the questions from residents and stakeholders. After the first reading approval, administration sent a written notification of the proposed amendments and the public hearing date and time to all neighboring property owners within 60 meters of the subject area. And also a public notice from advertising published in Lacombe Express, and information was posted on city's website on October 5th. During the public open house and after, administration received positive and supportive comments from residents while expressing their concern about retaining the existing natural trail in the proposed site. Administration also received positive comments from service providers, Fortis Alberto and TELUS, expressing no concern with the proposed development. This shows the natural trail, existing natural trail in the north of the subject site between the proposed land and the Hunter's Pond. Both the city and developer agreed and committed to retaining the existing trail. And this slide shows the preliminary design of the proposed subdivision, identifies the future lot boundaries, and the lands will be dedicated as municipal reserve to preserve the existing trail and enhance accessibility to the city trail network. From planning perspective, by reviewing the current conditions and analyzing the proposed development, administration concludes that there will be no negative impacts on the existing neighborhoods. The proposed development may be considered as a desired infill development. The proposed development will preserve the existing trail and enhance the city trail network, and there will be a contextual harmony in the neighborhood between the current residential development and the proposed development. Based on these planning analysis and the comments received from the stakeholders, it is recommended that Council gives second reading to bylaw 401.3 as presented, and also Council gives third reading to bylaw 405.3 as presented, and that Council gives second reading to bylaw 267.5 as presented, and that Council gives third reading to bylaw 267.5 as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Gomashi. We appreciate your input. So I would now ask those who wish to speak in favor of either the municipal development plan or the North Area Structured Plan to please come forward, and just remember to state your name for the record, please, sir. And I'll type. Sorry to interrupt. Please just push the button on the bottom there so the red light comes on. There, now you're good.
There we go.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gordon Lau with Stantec Consulting. I am actually the consultant helping the landowner on this application. Mark Brotherton with one of the landowners does send his apologies that he was not able to attend tonight. Before I get into the actual discussion, I think as always, first comment is really thanking administration from planning and development on their support on these types of applications. Anytime we're dealing with kind of these infill sites with really old kind of planning documents, it does become a challenge. We open up some discussions that nobody from administration is really aware of. They were decisions that were made in the past, and there's some fine details about those that just we're not aware of, and so we do have to work through them and ensure that the planning documents are aligned with current policies and with any other higher level documents themselves. So since 2017, the landowners have been working with industry to kind of determine the best use and opportunities of this land. when they purchased it, they were obviously aware of the neighborhood area structure plan and the College Heights outline plan that was associated with it. They have worked for quite a few years working with industry to attract multifamily development of any kind, whether that be a condo or an apartment site, and it just hasn't gone that well in this location. This site does have some unique challenges, where I'll talk about it a little bit afterwards. In terms of the multifamily site itself, I think some of the challenges do come from the grades. It does come with the market conditions, and then obviously it does come with as per the previous conversations, that does an apartment, does that higher density look really fit into this area where it's primarily single family and medium density housing choices. So as part of this development, the developer has completed a number of technical studies a little bit ahead of when it's required. Typically, some of these items aren't really required until detailed design or some later decision making. But because of the unique challenges of the grades of the site, the location of the trail, and again, just due to the shape and size of the site, some of these decisions had to be made already. And those do include numerous geotechnical investigations, really determining where the boundary of this site is and some of the engineering constraints associated with the property. A number of surveys have been completed, and even recently we have picked up all the location of the trails so that we can ensure that they are placed in the right areas and that we get the proper municipal reserves and boundaries that we understand what we're working within. And lastly, it's also making sure that we have identified a plan that's going to be functional and feasible in the future. So while lotting or some of the detailed design engineerings typically come a little bit after rezoning, these are items that we've had to complete already to understand how the site can develop, understand, be able to show the residents in the community during the open house what that neighborhood or their new neighbors may look like in the future. And then lastly, as for Vahid's or Mr. Gomeshi's presentation there, the overall feedback that we got from the community engagement was quite positive. I think with the higher density that was previously identified, there was a lot of uncertainty to the community. Is that what could this be? Could this be a 3-story apartment building? Could it be a condo site? Like what exactly? And so because of that land use, there's quite a bit of range. I think with what we've presented here of bringing that land use down and that density down, I think there is just a lot more positivity around it in terms of knowing it's going to be single family in the future. Other than that, as I mentioned before, we have focused around the trail. So being able to preserve that trail through a municipal reserve, being able to identify where that existing asphalt trail is. Those were things that the community was really happy to see. And then lastly, as I said, being able to give the communities a level of confidence in terms of what they're going to see in the future. And currently what's being proposed there as part of a future rezoning and subdivision application will be 19 single family residential lots. Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on this application. I'm going to be around if there are any questions, and I'll stick around for the second and third reading if anything comes up. All right.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else that would care to speak in favor of these bylaws? Third and final call for those wishing to speak in favor. I see none, so I would ask for those who wish to speak in opposition to bylaw 405.3 and bylaw 267.5. Please come forward now. And second call. Third call, I don't see anybody that wishes to speak in opposition. So we'll move into any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard at this time. And given the attendance, I expect we'll have an equal amount of, or an equal number rather, of participants. However, we're required by the MGA to ask. Second call for any person deemed to be affected and wishes to be heard at this time. And third call. I see none. So I declare the public meeting for bylaw 405.3 and bylaw 267.5 to be now closed at 7:07 PM. And back to our agenda here, we can move on to our requests for decision. I would call once again on Planner Gamashi. We're going to do item 6.1 for the same bylaw and 405.3, the municipal development plan, and bylaw 267.5, the North Area Structure Plan, and consider for second and possibly third readings, and assisted by our own manager of planning and development as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. We're tag teaming here tonight. Based on the presentation, Council received, administration are recommending a second and third reading of bylaw 405.3, the MDP amendment, as well as bylaw 267.5, the North Area Structure Plan amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So the one wording I heard in there was that they are committed to maintaining the path. Is that is the commitment the same as a requirement, or that?
Thank you, Councillor Dallas. I think the commitment meant that all of the parties want to see the trail in its existing location continue. We do need to sort that out at the time of subdivision to make sure that the property lines are adjusted according to the surveys. But there is a general understanding and commitment, but it isn't, until the time of subdivision, it isn't put in stone. Unless the developer has anything to add.
Through the mayor, yeah, I think that's exactly what it meant. Currently, it is a natural trail, so sometimes those natural trails are just not in the where the property lines are, and I think that's been kind of one of the challenges here, where the natural trail that the community has been used to is actually within private properties. And so the developer has committed to maintaining and preserving that as a municipal reserve, which is not a requirement to do so. It's obviously in our best interest to work with the community. And then as Nancy has mentioned, on the other side, the existing trail currently encroaches a little bit into the private property. And so over the subdivision stage, we will work with administration to ensure that the proper land is allocated for that use.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the understanding that it is on private property as it stands. So that's nice information. Thank you.
Great, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, so I just had questions about the trail more specifically. The overall project, normally I would be a little bit hesitant to de-densify, so to go from something higher density to something lower density. But given this area, that's not as much of a concern because, as was pointed out, there is a lot of multifamily in this general area. My question is more to do with the trail. I noticed the wording that it said that the development would enhance the trail network. And I guess I just have some concerns about the integrity of the slope that's in that area, as well as potential for deforestation. So that is a very natural area. When you're going along the one side, that would be the back end of some of these lots. Beautiful area. You have a very steep slope on the one side. And I'm just concerned that if that's private property right up to the edge of the trail, that there's potentially nothing stopping from a property owner of completely removing all vegetation. They could put in their own trail access points. They could be altering the slope. And I just have some concerns, even just the structural integrity of, of that slope. And then, of course, the aesthetic of this being currently a very wild area. And not to say that it has to stay exactly like that. I don't think that's realistic, that, oh, you can't develop this area and you can't use your private property the way you want. But I do have concerns. I think that these would be concerns that would be shared by many residents, many users of that trail. So I guess I just put those multiple questions if you kept track of them. And if you have an answer for that, please.
In regards to the slope and in regards to some of those challenges, be assured that the developer of this site is actually one of the most respected geotechnical engineers in central Alberta. So I think from that regards, they definitely have done their homework through, I believe, 3 reports in terms of identifying how this area will grade out, what some of those challenges are, and some of what those mitigation risks are. In regards to the trees themselves, yeah, as part of development, some of the trees will have to be removed, and that's just the nature of development. On some of the areas, as from a geotechnical stability standpoint, there are certain measures that they have to do to ensure that it is an impact, and also any impacts that are made has to be within the property line. So from that perspective, some of those trees will have to stay. Some of those grades we won't be able to impact because there is that potential that it would have to dealt with off-site, which we wouldn't be allowed to do. I think in order to keep some of this planning and detailed design separate, I think it is also important to note that the discussion on the table tonight is really just about rezoning. And then in the future, as part of those subdivision applications, as part of the rezoning, as part of the detailed design approval, that's when we'll work with administration to really identify what some of those additional details and mitigation are. And then from an administration standpoint, there are other tools in place that we can identify. We can put caveats on title in terms of tree protection, where the development boundaries are. So there are a number of things that would be done after this planning and rezoning processes.
Thank you. I appreciate that reminder that what we are considering here this evening, however, to publicly state the developer's obvious desire to include the trail and whatnot is certainly appreciated. Thank you for that. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. My apologies, but my question to administration, there's some history with issues with slope. And I can't remember my old address to the street it's on, but it's off the end of the top right-hand corner. And I don't know what page I'm on, even on the agenda. Pardon me, but anyways, it's I can't remember my darn past address. The previous owner was Rob Wilson and so forth, but off the end of that slope, at the time that I lived in Henners, there was slope, and of the common slope is what Councillor Hibbs is bringing up, that had to be later addressed by the city. Is that a common slope that is being considered? My apologies, I'm confusing everybody, but
No worries at all.
I just know when we start talking, when Councillor Hibbs started talking about slope and the concern of it, there was where the developer had to basically make 2 lots out of 3 to address that concern at that time.
As I'm through the mayor, as part of my presentation earlier, I did identify that a number of work has been done prior to kind of when it is required. As part of this planning application submission, 2 geotechnical investigations were submitted, and I believe administration has reviewed those as part of the recommendation for tonight's approval. So as part of those geotechnicals, they have identified the profiles, so what the cross section of those lots would look like, what some of those mitigation impacts are, and any identification in terms of construction methods at the time of future construction that's required to ensure the safety of this property, and again, 0 impact to anything outside of the plan area.
Thank you. CEO Gowdy.
So I believe that Councillor Ross is referring to the northwest corner of Henners Outlook. There was some slope failures there years ago. That was actually due to some borrow pit activity that occurred during the development of the properties, wherein high organic fill was placed on the back of some of these lots. Moisture problems later led to instability of the slope, and so it had to be remedied. That situation will not exist here because the same borrow pit activity has never been undertaken there.
Appreciate that clarification. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think that we're getting off track here a little bit because it's just the zoning that we're looking at right at the moment. And that this will come back later on through our administration. And I think whether it was zoned multifamily or single homes like this, it doesn't matter. The same issues would still be there, right? So those issues have to be addressed at time of development. And so I would be willing to make the motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 405.3 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Gullickson. Yeah, very good. Good, okay, very good. That was two were up for the same one. With respect to second reading, is there any additional input from any council member? Seeing none, please go ahead and vote. That is voted in favor of second reading. Therefore, second reading is passed. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council give third reading to bylaw 405.3 as presented.
Thank you. I know in the past, sometimes we have been hesitant on giving two readings in the same evening. However, in this instance, I don't think that there were many questions that were not addressed satisfactorily. So unless there is additional comments, seeing none, we can proceed to the vote on third reading now, please. And that is passed unanimously as well. Thank you. Planner Gamache, next up is item 6.2, the College Heights Outline Plan Amendment. I'm sorry, I did not see your light on, Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. There's a couple more motions. So I would like to move that council gives second reading to bylaw 267.5 as presented.
I appreciate you catching both of those. When I said concurrently, I was not accounting on them still needed to be read in separately. So thank you for that. Any input on second reading for bylaw 267.5 second reading? Doesn't appear to be any, so please go ahead and vote. We're ambitious. And that is in favor unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Motion that council gives third reading to bylaw 267.5 as presented.
Thank you. Once again, any additional input? All right, please go ahead and vote. And that is in favor unanimously as well. Be ashamed to go through all that and miss half of the motion. So thanks, everyone. Okay, Planner Gamache. Once again, the College Heights Outline Plan Amendment. Now that we're in correct order here.
Thank you. This report requests for council decision on the proposed amendments to the College Heights Outline Plan as attached to the actual report. The proposed amendments to the College Heights Outline Plan will update the plan's land use section and maps to enable single detached dwelling development on two undeveloped parcels at 4902 and 4722 Bertsley Avenue, located south of Henner's Pound and legally described as Lot 8 and 9, Block 7, Plan 4022116. The developer proposes to amend the use of the subject land from multifamily development to single-family home development. if approved by council, the proposed amendments, the land use of the subject site on the land use concept map, map 2 on the College Heights outline plan will be amended, as well as wording amendments within the plan text and maps 3, 4, and 5 to reflect the amended land use and revised servicing approach. The proposed development area will be serviced by a low pressure sanitary sewer system instead of a gravity system. From planning perspective, the College Heights outline plan as a non-statutory plan identifies land uses and densities for the areas west of C&E Trail. The plan area includes the existing College Heights residential area and expansion areas to the south and east. The plan was developed by council in 2001 and amended in 2005, 6, and 12. The proposed amendments are highlighted in the amendment College Heights outline plan attached to the report. The College Heights outline plan has provided lands for open space consisting of development parks and connecting trails for the plan area. The outline plan identifies total municipal reserve and environmental reserve have been dedicated as required by the city's MDP and AGM. In addition to providing required lands for open space and buffers between residential uses and arterial roadways, a minimum of 6-meter wide environmental reserve strip around Henner's Pond has been provided. Walking trail link these natural areas with developed parks, and during public engagement, trails were a key area of concern. According to the proposal, the existing natural trail in the north of the proposed land, which connects the city public trail network surrounding Henner's Pond, is retained and will not be impacted by the proposed development. The landowner and city administration aim to retain public trail locations. A future subdivision plan must be submitted before any lot line adjustment or development occurs. Administration received several supportive comments during the open house and in writing from residents regarding the proposed amendments, while requesting the city protect and preserve the existing natural trail. As conclusion, it is recommended that council approve the proposed amendment to the College Heights outline plan as presented.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I guess one of the items there that I would be curious about is with respect to the low pressure sanitary sewer system. Director Thompson, I think I'm safe in suggesting this is a less than ideal situation. However, there are compromises in most developments, and given the elevation challenges and whatnot here, is this an acceptable route for the city to utilize? And do we have any other examples that we could point to where this type of system is in place currently?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I would say that it's a different system in terms of acceptability, higher or lower. It really depends. The bulk of the obligation in terms of the pumps that are the things that kind of require the maintenance and tend to be costly are, in this case, can be within each home. That's what the developer is proposing. And there were some details around the philosophy of where the responsibility of the service, the pressure pipe, and the pump would lie with respect to this development. And so those have been clarified. And so we don't have a concern at this stage with the proposed low pressure system. It is more common in kind of in situations where a development has been urbanized or has become more urbanized. So around lakes, for example, summer villages, around Sylvan Lake, there are a number that have low pressure systems that have replaced tanks and whatnot that have there have been concerns with environmental leaks into the lake and whatnot. So those have low pressure systems have replaced those. It's also likely, although to be determined, that when the city takes over the Rosedale Valley area in the distant future, that may be required to be taken over by a low pressure system or incorporate a low pressure sanitary sewer system in that instance as well. So in terms of the details of the system, those will be determined during the detailed design stage. But given the information that we have, that the developers have provided with respect to kind of the philosophy of how they're planning on developing the low pressure system in this area, we don't have a concern with it.
Okay, but it's safe to say that we really don't have any existing areas in the city that are serviced in this manner.
That is correct. We certainly have force mains, like pressure sewer pipes, but in terms of individual homes through a pressure system like this connected to the city's overall sanitary sewer system, this will be our first.
Yeah, and I just want it to be known publicly that this is perhaps a little unusual, certainly within the city of Lacombe anyway. However, as long as it's backed up by sound engineering practices, I guess I'm fine with it. Just for people that are not necessarily familiar with these types of systems, basically this is puts the onus on each individual lot owner to macerate and pump the waste from their property to the city system, as opposed to let's call it a common collector system, and either pumping or gravity feed normally handled by the city. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor Creasy. And that certainly was something that was explored with this development as well, having a common lift station owned by the city, operated by the city, and each home would be gravity drained into that lift station and then pumped uphill to the rest of the gravity system. In this case, the sole beneficiary of that lift station would have been this development, and so the costs for that lift station would have been borne by the developer. And to explore alternatives that were more cost effective, this was the solution that was proposed and ultimately what is being recommended for approval from administration.
Thank you. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make the motion that council approves the amendments to the College Heights outline plan as presented.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or concerns from council? Please go ahead and vote. Thank you. That is unanimous as well. Thank you. Unanimous in favor, rather. And Senior Manager McKinnon, thank you for being here. We've got item 6.3, the 2024 capital budget up next. Everybody, I believe, has received their monster binders, and we're good to proceed. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Good evening, and to Mayor Creasy and Council. I'm here to present for Council's consideration the first draft of the proposed 2024 capital budget. The City of Lacombe's 2024 draft capital budget includes 24 projects, which are listed in the report. The total expenditures are estimated at $10,021,000, and the funding for these projects is $3.35 million in grants, $5 million from reserve withdrawals, $450,000 from debentures, and $1.15 million from other contributions. And I'm happy to take any questions you have on the initial 2024 capital budget.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So in regards to process here, if we want to delete any of these projects, is now the time to do so, or is this just a review to accept as information?
Thank you for that question. CAO Gowdy.
So certainly council has the ability you could make a motion to delete or change. Our intent this evening was to just get this in your hands for a fulsome deliberation and discussion at next week's workshop days that have been set aside. So I would encourage you to hold off until then, but certainly it is within your power if you say, this police vehicle replacement, well, that one is difficult, actually. Let me choose a different one. City Hall renovations, I won't have that. You could make that motion now if you wanted to. We would point out those workshop days, though, that have been set aside too.
Councillor Ross, appreciate the question. I guess basically then you're suggesting there is ample opportunity to delete or add items as council sees fit, but preferably not this evening. Very good. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Actually, just further to that vein of thought, however, are our workshops next week, are those committee of the whole meetings or like what actual designation do those workshop days have? The reason I'm asking is not a more appropriate motion potentially that we would like assign discussion on this item to a workshop day, which if it's a committee of the whole meeting, then it would be identified as such. Because I mean, I'm hearing Councillor Ross, it is a little bit confusing just to accept something as information. Like you could almost say that, well, by accepting this report, we're approving it, stamp, done. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily clear, especially maybe to the public who aren't, as involved with all this parliamentary stuff. So just a consideration. I'd like input maybe from administration.
Gio Gowdy?
Yeah, so we certainly, this is following our past practice, but your point is well taken. You could make a motion that makes it more clear that you've already set those days aside. So you could say something like, council moves to accept this information package for further deliberation and discussion at the workshop date, budget workshop dates that have been set aside for October 29th and 30th. It's like 30 and 31, and that might meet your intent.
Thank you. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. And further to that, wouldn't it allow Manager McKinnon to be more prepared for budget workshop if there was desire to delete some of these in the first place? Would it not make the process next Monday easier? Would it allow yourself to be more prepared with debt servicing or taxable positions or wishes, rather than if there was thumbs up, thumb down votes or motions or whatever the case may be? I don't know. I just see some of these that there's been lots of discussion that would it be just simpler to make the decision tonight. But I'm just my opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would love to make the motion that CAO Gowdy did articulate earlier, that we accept this for discussion at next week's budget workshops. I do not wish to, we can, but I do not wish to discuss them tonight. That's a lot of material to go through for each one of these upcoming motions, and that's literally what we had set those 2 full days aside for, is to have that fulsome discussion at that time. So I would like to make the motion that we are accepting this as meant for discussion at our workshop, October 30th and 31st.
Thank you. So, Councillor Ross, I mean, certainly had legitimate questions there. I guess in order to ease those concerns, Manager McKinnon, with respect to workload, is the vast majority of the work has been undertaken already, or is there a substantial amount of effort to be put forward by you and your team within the time frame from now until workshop time? Where are we at with that?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. The vast amount of work that we can do prior to workshop is done. And this opportunity tonight is to present this to council and to the public for a chance to look at it prior to the workshop days. So it's really just to get the information out there, almost like a first reading, and give some time for it to sink in and get feedback.
Very good. That was the answer that I was expecting and looking for, to be perfectly honest with you, because it is a valid question. If we were going to be causing a bunch of extra work by not eliminating perhaps some items that Councillor Ross had for consideration. Does that at all help in alleviating those concerns, Councillor Ross?
So it's just purely discussion to make the process easier, whatever means it was Monday or whatever, because we've been actually quite successful at getting through the process in one day. And I just thought if we eliminated 3 or 4, that added up to about 800,000 or 900,000, how that might make a difference to make other decisions easier. So that's the motion for. So.
Thank you. Coordinator Bellabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just to read out Councillor Hibbs' motion, just to make sure it's right in the wording you want, that council accepts the proposed 2024 capital budget report for discussion at the council budget workshop on October 30th, 2023 and October 31st, 2023.
That's exactly correct. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I have the motion, great. In regards to additions, changes here, I think I would also, prefer to wait until the workshop, because, as much as there is financial implications for Manager McKinnon here, there is other departments that are affected by these changes that I would like to have them be able to provide input on them and reasoning. So that is just why I would like to see it weighted. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion before us? Please proceed to vote. Oh, well, under the wire, Councillor Hoekstra, go ahead.
It just says the budget. It should say the proposed capital budget.
I think the budget encompasses both, but
But we're not.
what's your
discussing-
thoughts on that, CEO Gowdy?
I think that probably capital should be included in there, and I should publicly state, I sent that to Mr. Tom Knock. That was my mistake. He's just copied what I tried to get quickly done there, so.
Right, but it's.
If you could add capital.
Yeah.
Mr.
I-
Thomas, that would be
We especially appreciate you jumping under the bus of your own accord. Thank you. Very good. We'll wait for that wording adjustment and proceed afterwards. That's why it's always good to have several sets of eyes, because I would have suggested that budget included the entire budget, but that sounds good to me. If it has been corrected, please go ahead and vote now. And that is carried by margin. One Councillor opposed, Councillor Ross. Thank you. Item 6.4, Senior Manager McKinnon, the 2024 through 2033 capital plan.
Thank you. I'm here to introduce to council and to the public the first draft of the 2024 to 2023 capital plan. The purpose of the capital plan is to outline the future capital requirements of the City of Lacombe based on council priorities and the existing infrastructure and maintenance requirements. The first year of the capital plan is the 2024 capital budget, which would be approved to authorize capital expenditures for the City of Lacombe. The remaining 9 years, 2025 to 2023, are for planning purposes only and are not an authorization for expenditures. The projects for the division for the 2024 to 2023 capital plan can be found in Appendix 1, 10-year capital plan. The estimated capital expenditures represented in the capital plan are 80.8 million, up from 80.7 million in 2023. In the chart, Appendix 2 illustrates the breakdown of the capital expenses by each year of the plan. The estimated funding sources for the 2023 to 2033, or sorry, 2024 to 2033 capital plan are debentures, 8.6 million, grants, 22.18 million, reserve withdrawals, 45.6 million, and outside sources, 4.4 million. Appendix 3 shows the funding sources broken down by each year of the 10-year plan. Major projects considered within the 2024 to 2023 capital plan include fire station building, total cost of 5 million, fire ladder truck replacement, total cost of 2 million, roads renewal program, capital works, total cost of 16.2 million, and new water reservoir and decommissioning of Pump House B, a total cost of 11.7 million. Debt financing is a major part of the capital funding for municipalities. The tax rate increased due to additional borrowing in 2024 to 2023 period is shown in Appendix 4. Appendix 5 shows a 10-year debt servicing projection broken down by tax-supported, utility-supported, and off-site supported financing. The City of Lacomb's 2024 to 2033 capital plan based on several assumptions that are outlined in the report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the proposed 2024 to 2033 capital plan.
Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So this too will be reviewed once more during the workshop, right? Okay, so may I make the motion then?
If you care to do so, yes.
I move that council accepts the proposed 2024 to 2033 capital plan to be discussed at the budget workshop on October 30th and 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Ross. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, through to Manager McKinnon. None of the costs of the public workshop show here. It's all in debt, right? Debt servicing, is that correct?
It's been prior approved and it's actually a large portion grants and then $5 million in debt. So
That's-
6.5 billion, yeah, so it's prior approved, not included in this plan. It's prior approved already. The funding sources have already been committed and your expenditure has already been approved.
Right. So the only thing that's showing here is debt servicing in that part, correct?
No, that
No.
debt servicing here is new debt,
New debt,
new debt,
not our old debt.
not our old debt.
Okay. So it's not our total debt servicing then.
Correct. It's just from 2024 to 2033 debt.
Even though that the 2023 carries forward into 2024, right?
Mhm, that's correct. It doesn't include any carry forward of any prior projects. We've committed those funds and we've, even in our reserve balances, we've committed them so that we have that funding available to spend on them.
Okay. Thank you.
So Manager McKinnon, just to be open about it, that also did include the adjustment to the debt servicing for the Public Works facility, some 128,000 comes to mind?
For servicing costs in the operating budget? Is that what you mean, or?
No, for the capital budget for the additional borrowing. That was identified in one of the charts, and I just wanted to bring that
Oh, correct,
to attention.
correct. In appendix, one of the appendixes shows a new appendix 5, I believe it is. Appendix 5 shows the 10-year debt servicing projection broken out by tax supported, utility supported, and offsite supported financing. In that chart, Councillor Gullickson, you're correct. That includes all the existing debt we have to date.
Okay. That's what I want to see.
Now I understand your question. Sorry.
Thank you. I hope that would help. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So obviously in the roads renewal program, that's 10-year capital plan, does not include any major reconstruction of CD Trail going from airport, what's the airport one, east and west, what the street's that? 63rd to the county boundary. That obviously does not include that, any major product that to happen within 10 years then.
Director Thompson.
To Councillor Ross, certainly we plan to, well, it's included in the workshop on Monday and Tuesday. it is factored into that within the next 10 years. A portion of repaving our program says a segment of Sini Trail is up for renewal. We're going to ask council to consider whether they want to do the full segment from the roundabout north.
Anyone else? Motion correct. So it's a wholesome conversation and whatnot and input. I think just have Coordinator Balabona read back the motion before us, please.
Motion on the floor by Councillor Hoekstra is that council accepts the proposed 2024 to 2033 capital plan report for discussion at the council budget deliberation workshop on October 30th, 2023 and October 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Hoekstra. That is the correct wording. Very good. Any additional input? All right, please go ahead and vote. The workload continues to mount for October 30th and 31st with a unanimous in favor vote on that item. Thanks, everyone. Senior Manager McKinnon, moving on to the 2024 operating budget and the financial plan for years 2025 and 2026, please.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Tonight, I'm presenting the first draft of the 2024 operating budget and 2025-2026 plan. On August 14th, 2023, Council directed administration to prepare an operating budget for 2024 based on a 4% tax rate increase, 1% special paving tax, and cost of living allowance of 3%. Administration has prepared the draft budget based on Council's direction. Appendix 1 displays a comparison of total budget changes by major expense and revenue categories for both tax-supported and utility operations. Highlights of those changes are mentioned in the report. In personnel, the 2024 draft personnel budget is compared to the 2023 approved budget by department in Appendix 2. Appendix 3 further provides a breakdown of these changes into one-time reversals, cost of living allowances, step and benefit changes, health and dental provisions, and new positions. The new positions equate to 2% of the municipal taxes and the addition of a victim services staff that are offset by grant revenue. Community groups are made their annual budget presentations on October 10th to Council. Agency requests up to 4% were included in the proposed 2024 operating budget that is presented today. Agency requests exceeding the 4% target are summarized in Appendix 4, Agency Request Increases. Service level changes not yet included in the budget are shown in Table 1 in the report. Table 1 shows $340,000 of expenses that administration has removed for the draft budget presented tonight in order to balance the budget. These items include a combination of agency requests, public requests, staff suggestions, and/or council priorities expressed throughout 2023. In the 2024 budget, there's also $168,000 earmarked within the balanced budget for council to approve additional service level changes or requests, such as those in Table 1. Appendix 6 summarizes a 3-year financial plan, 2024 to 2026. The next steps in the budget process are the budget workshops scheduled for October 30th and 31st. Council will begin to deliberate the operating and capital budgets on November 14th, 2023. I'm happy to take any questions about the 2024 operating budget.
Thank you. Councillor Konik.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would so move that council accepts the proposed 2024 operating budget for discussion at the upcoming budget workshops on October 30th and 31st. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Konik. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. My apologies. I couldn't follow everything you said, but did you say additional positions for the city will be a 2% increase? Yeah, okay.
That was the estimate put into the 2024 draft budget,
So we're
equivalent to 2% of municipal taxes.
right, okay.
Just wanted some clarification on item here. When item funding to others increased by $182,000 due to higher water purchases for resale. I'm expected, then there's some other justification beneath it, but I'm assuming the bulk of that amount is due to the increase put forward through the regional system to account for changes in pricing from the city of Red Deer for water supply. Director Thompson?
And so to Mayor Creasy, yeah, certainly you're correct. Through the regional systems, they are a major driver of utility costs for the city of Lacombe and all three utilities, the Water Commission, the Wastewater Commission, the Solid Waste Commission. And so the costs that they set for all of their members are in some ways outside of the city's direct control. But you're correct. Through the Water Commission and the Wastewater Commission, the city of Red Deer is then a major component of the commission's rates. And so we have seen rate increases from the city of Red Deer on both of those fronts that were greater than expected. And in addition to that, some inflationary costs like utilities and whatnot have been higher than the commission has budgeted in the past in more recent years. So the commissions will be deliberating on a budget for those utilities in November.
Thank you for that. Just important to have that highlighted publicly, given that those utilities for our water and wastewater do operate on a cost recovery basis, and there are a number of the major categories are beyond our control, I guess is the best way to put it. And naturally, the supply of water is an important one, and one that affects most everyone in the city. So appreciate that outline. Anyone else? Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I guess this is not so much a question directly for this current budget, but it is listed in here as council policy for compensation policy. It says review frequency is every 4 years. It was reviewed. So based on my math, it was reviewed in September of 2022 so last year. Is there ability for council to bring this back and review or make amendments to it through notice of motion? Or I'm curious if there was any ability.
We can certainly work through the possibilities of that, just to be aware that there is a committee for that very purpose, for bringing ideas forward. Normally that is done on a rotating basis on the year prior to an election, if I'm not mistaken, which would mean that next year there would be a meeting coming up to address that.
Okay, and that would be separate from the council remuneration committee.
I'm going to
sorry, and so I guess my apologies is sorry, I am not so much speaking on council remuneration more as city compensation policy.
Thank you for that clarification. CA Loudy, care to expand on that?
I was just going to say you two are talking about two different things. It was my understanding. Councillor Dallas, you had stated with the compensation policy says that the review for frequency is every 4 years. The effective date is currently 2018. Therefore, it must have been reviewed in 2022. I think is what I gathered there. Is that right?
That's what I was thinking, and perhaps it just slipped my mind.
No, you're correct. Unfortunately, we did not do it in 2022. I would say that most of our review frequencies on policies in particular are more of like aspirational than realistic. And it is something that we're addressing as we go through and update them to say, yeah, we'll give it an administrative review on a regular frequency, but unless there's substantive changes requested by council or recommended by administration, we won't be bringing it back every 4 years, because actually we did an inventory of our policies, and actually even just to do them on a 5-year rotation, you would be doing 2 or 3 policies every single meeting. So it's not feasible. So I apologize. it was not reviewed in 2022. The most recent review of the compensation policy would be September of 2018.
So just to calm fears that there might be in the public, it's not as though we have lagged behind significantly at this point, though, correct?
Absolutely correct. The city's compensation levels are reviewed on an ongoing basis and benchmarked against industry standards every 2 years. This is just the philosophy that goes behind that. So specifically saying we'll take these named comparators and we'll target the 50th percentile of those named comparators for the jobs. That's what's contained within the policy. Staff salaries are reviewed on an ongoing basis, and we are confident that they are fair and equitable.
Does that explanation alleviate some of your concerns, Councillor Dawes?
Yes, it does, and thank you. And I don't want it to be out there that I was thinking that the city was lagging or not doing this appropriately, or so. Thank you. And I guess my biggest question was if we were interested in seeing adjustments to this from a council side, would that be made through a notice of motion, or is this just a policy that would come back? Yeah, is basically my biggest question.
And that is a good question. I expect there will be some opportunity to discuss during our deliberations on October 30th and 31st. But perhaps CEO Gotti would care to add to that as well.
Yeah, certainly notice of motion is the way to force the issue on a given timeline. I would say my recommendation to you would be to bring these up during the operating budget, see if there is some interest in doing so from the rest of council. If there is, we're going to sense that as well and bring that back just in the normal course of proceedings. And if you're alone on wanting to amend it, we probably won't, and you have to go to the notice of motion side.
Thank you.
Right, just to refresh my memory, Councillor Connick, you had made a motion before us for the consideration of the 2024 operating budget. Did anybody have anything additional they wanted to add or ask about? Just so there's no confusion, I'll maybe have Coordinator Bellabono read it into the record.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I believe if it's the same wording as the rest, that council accepts the proposed 2024 operating budget report for discussion at the council budget deliberation workshop on October 30th, 2023 and October 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Everyone's good with the discussion. We're all very good. Please go ahead and vote. And that is in favor and passed unanimously. Thank you. Director Lapointe, the next item up, item 6.6, the rural renewal stream. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. This evening, administration is presenting the Rural Renewal Stream Program for Council's review and consideration. The program seeks to connect employers with foreign workers who may be suitable candidates for vacant positions. The concept is for municipalities to work with local community partners as recruiters for private employers struggling to fill these vacant positions. The program does have specific requirements that need to be met for a municipality to participate, including identifying and working with employers who have permanent jobs that need filling, and those jobs must be a minimum of 12 months in length, full-time, and non-seasonal. Working with settlement providing organizations, so that would be like Care for Newcomers or Catholic Social Services out of Red Deer, to identify and plan for some of the settlement needs in the community, responding to foreign national inquiries, collaborating with employers on selecting and endorsing an applicant, and developing and implementing a plan for settlement. Given these requirements, participating in this program involves significant administrative resources unless a partner agency can share the workload. Anecdotally, I can tell you a few similar-sized municipalities were approached to better understand their experience with the program, the sense that there was some success with definite corresponding uptick in administrative workload. This much was clear. To successfully implement the program, the municipality and/or community partners must be prepared to commit staff resources. Administration has provided a variety of alternatives for applying to the Rural Renewal Program, including a municipally led solution, looking for other municipal partners, and seeking a partner organization to deliver the service. Alternatively, council may decide that recruitment efforts are best led by private industry and choose not to participate in the program. Should council decide to pursue the program, a committee reviews applications every other month, and those received by the end of October will be reviewed in November. Otherwise, the next review meeting will occur in January 2024. With that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Lapointe. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. My belief is I think this is a private sector issue, and I don't feel that we have the resources, and just my opinion. But anyways, I'd like to make the motion that council receives this as information.
Thank you. So, Director Lapointe, I guess I will say that when this was first brought about, I don't think there was necessarily an understanding of the required workload for the city. In saying that, I think that this is a program as outlined by the province that is intended to address a very real need in our community. I would like to see all efforts made to ensure that the requesting businesses carry as much of the load for accommodation and guarantee of certain things as is possible, because I have a bit of an issue with suggesting that is the responsibility of the municipality. I have no problem with the paperwork of those types of items, but to suggest that the municipality is responsible for it, I think steps beyond the reasonable line for me. But I would like to see the program move forward in a meaningful way so that we can help as we can, and as the province has made the option to assist those businesses, because I don't believe it's something that they can do totally on their own without some municipal involvement. So for that reason, I mean, I appreciate the comments made by Councillor Ross. However, it's not as though any business has not, I would suggest, worked pretty diligently on finding appropriate staffing. And if this is one more avenue that's put forth as a possibility, I think that is a good thing that will benefit the community. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Director Lapointe, the current system right now for businesses to find foreign workers or immigrant workers, is there the provincial government, do they have one where, for example, Deuce Greenhouse, a very large greenhouse, is looking for people to work at that greenhouse? Would they have the avenue to make application through the provincial government to find foreign?
I believe there is a federal program that they can apply through, but this is the provincial government's attempt to close that gap a little bit at this point.
Okay, so this is their attempt to do that, using municipalities to do the coordinating with the businesses then, basically.
As I understand it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as our responsibilities then, and you talk about partnerships, would we be able to create our own system then, or do we have to follow their guidelines exclusively? The way I understood it, we could have a partnership with businesses in our community or area to create a way to get the information about those employees to them. Is that correct?
I believe the Rural Renewal Program itself is the avenue for approaching those potential employees. Yes, you can coordinate amongst different community
Mhm.
agencies, whether it would be FCSS, if that's what you're referring to at this point. You could also partner with other municipalities to deliver the solution as well. But the program itself is as it's laid out here by the province.
Right. So the province would be the ultimate source of the information about the immigrants then that would be available for those positions.
No, I think we go out and actively recruit to try to actually solicit these employees to our community at this point. So there's a recruiting process for us. The municipality and the businesses work together to recruit these employees. And then we have to go through a vetting process as well afterwards to ensure that they can fit the requirements of the program.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a way beyond our scope to do that. I think that it should be a federal or at least a provincial level to bring those people to our country. And then at that point, find the spots for them. So, thank you.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So a couple of questions. You already did mention FCSS, but I was curious when you were consulting other municipalities, were those municipalities that house their FCSS as a municipal department? Because then that is a likely spot for it, if that makes sense, that a municipality would oversee it, in my opinion. We don't have that. Our FCSS is arm's length. So yes, they could be partners, but it wouldn't, I don't see it working as smoothly as if it was under our own municipality.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Councillor
I got
Hoekstra.
follow-up. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that we did not discuss internal agencies that other municipalities were working with. There, for the most part, this project was led by economic development partners and other municipalities.
Okay. Okay, that does make sense too. So we did have a letter or a request for information or a question to administration around this program. And I guess I cannot remember it and I don't know how to pull that up really quickly, but was that person's motivation because they were an employer? Do you remember it was because they were an employer? Because that's my next question is, who do we see as a municipality is benefiting from this? Like who is how many significant employers do we have in town that in our city that would benefit from this, that are kind of knocking on our door?
Which is certainly a fair question. I would suggest that to date, it has been primarily food outlet companies that have contacted both myself and administration. I don't know that it would be limited to them. I can think of several businesses offhand that I think may have some interest in this type of arrangement. What did you have to add to that?
I would concur. I would say with one small deviation, and it's not a small deviation. It wasn't businesses themselves that approached me. I had a Ukrainian delegation actually approach me and talk to me about how a number of them are facing a return back to the Ukraine at this point. And previously, the federal program was the only alternative for them to turn to, but that's been quite slow moving. And so it has just come to their attention in the last few months that the rural renewal program is an option for them to sort of say, hey, I've already secured employment, which is an interesting sort of spin on it at this point, right? So they actually have a position in place, and then they could actually apply to this program with their employer's sanctions at this point and perhaps get landed immigrant status at that point or permanent citizenship, whatever the option is afterwards.
CEO Gowdy.
Okay, I had a couple of notes that I wanted to mention. Councillor Gullickson in his question asked about greenhouse workers for DOFs. Typically, those temporary foreign workers are going to be it's not going to be a full-time permanent job. And this program requires them to be 12 months a year, permanent full-time job. So a greenhouse worker, unless it meets those requirements, wouldn't be able to go through this program. That would be a temporary foreign worker program through the federal government. Mayor Creasy, you had mentioned, I'd like the candidate endorsement side as much as possible to be being done by those businesses that are working with them directly day to day. And that is one of our biggest concerns. The program very clearly does require candidate endorsement by the municipality. So the municipality, if I'm to use this example, you are endorsing Ukrainian refugees or whoever accesses the program as a candidate for permanent residency in Canada. Not just like, I think they do the job, that X business, but I think they would be a good Canadian citizen. So it's outside of our normal arena in that side. And I just wanted to add a little clarification. Director Lapointe had talked about that it would be the community reaching out directly to potential immigrants that would work here. But actually, that is one stream. That's the most common stream. There is also an Alberta, I'm going to call it like a provincial registry almost. It's called the Economic Mobility Pathways Pilot Program that they're running. That the intent of that program, it's kind of a new thing, so I don't know how exactly it works, but the intent would be to make connections potentially between potential immigrants and businesses seeking to make use of this program through the municipality. So there is some level of like a registry type thing in the works. Again, I'm not sure. It's just a pilot project, so I don't know quite how well set up it is yet. You do still have to, even if a business selects a candidate from that Economic Mobility's Pathway Pilot Program, they still need an endorsement of candidate letter from the host community.
Thank you for that information. So I just don't want us to be confused with endorsement and approval for immigration into Canada. Two vastly different things. The endorsement, fine. Okay, that's understandable, but that is certainly a federal function. It may be gone through up the chain through the province, then on to the federal government, but still a federal function, no matter what. So, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a quick question and then a follow-up depending on what the answer is. Now, I apologize if I missed it, but does this program come with financial support as well from the province?
It does not.
Okay. I definitely appreciate what this program is trying to do, but I do see this as a huge download from the province and certainly trying to, I don't know, augment, replace whatever the federal government isn't doing clearly. So I would not be in favor of us proceeding with this program, not because I don't want to support, this type of work that's, could make things better in our community. I just feel that the municipality is not in a position to address this appropriately. Most likely we would need help from an outside agency and they would need to be compensated. We would have to tax. I just feel that it's a download and that it's just not appropriate for municipality to do. If this is so good, which I actually do think it is, then the province should actually administer it.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess I agree with Councillor Hibbs in that sense. I do also believe that perhaps there is a future where this is a benefit to us, and even I guess I struggle because it is for the greater good if we can allow these people to find appropriate work and residency. There was a conversation we had this weekend my partner and I, and then I guess some other people got to participate in regards to post-secondary. Students are looking as international students to find permanent residency. And I think just based on that conversation and seeing this as kind of uniquely timed, there is an opportunity to get skilled workers that are interested in being in our region as well, and through that opportunity. So perhaps if there is an involvement of this, then that might be a good avenue, is to use our post-secondary schools as an avenue for this as well. So, but as it stands right now, I'm not sure I can see a way forward through us financially.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll concur with Councillor Hibbs, but I'll also like to add the two Laban buildings is 160 units and they're full. Quite often, and where I can respect and empathize with businesses and require competitive staffing within their needs of the service industry or so forth. But you know, this is a national thing of where these people are going to live. I think there's a lot of unforeseen question marks as with the current economy, increase in cost of living, 30% increase in rent in 3 years. What's the demands are going to be in our own funded social agencies within our city? And I think I concur it's going to be taxing on our own budget. And I think at this time, I think there's federal programs in place. I know that the Dew family and many other agriculture that I know of farms have went through the federal programs quite successfully. So I think at this time it's not on the agenda.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So just one last question about the partnership potential. Do we know why the Action Group's Employment Center hasn't looked into this on their own, or do they absolutely need a municipal partner? Did that make sense? Yeah.
Director Lapointe.
I'm not certain. What I will say though is I do believe that this has to have municipal endorsement. I don't think it can be led by the partner agency.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. On the face of it, I mean, this program seems to have a lot of merits and there's a lot of good things there, but Councillor Ross brings up a good point. I recently had a potential client approach me. They rent currently in town and they pay $750 a month, and it's in 3 months it's going up to $1,300. And they're now thinking that maybe they should buy something. So to Councillor Ross's point, it's one thing to bring the people in, but this program doesn't address those gaps with housing and so forth. And that's the tricky part. Do we need more workers interested in this type of work? For sure, but there's a lot of other things that need to be addressed here. And this program needs to either expand or encompass that, and I also think it's rather interesting that we endorse potential candidates for permanent residency or landed immigrant status. And do we really know them well enough to do that? I think that's interesting as well. I mean, anywho, it's on the face of it looks interesting, but there's too many unanswered questions for me to get on board.
Thank you. Anyone else? So we do have a motion on the floor as made by Councillor Ross, and for the record, Coordinator Bellbono, just read that back to us, please.
Mayor Creasy, that motion on the floor by Councillor Ross is that Council receive the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program Streams Report as information.
Thank you. I see no more input. Please go ahead and vote. And that is voted unanimously in favor. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Hoekstra, item 6.7 for notice of motion. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll begin by making the motion that council direct administration to draft a letter to the Honorable Rick McIver, Minister of Municipal Affairs, outlining concerns about the amending the Local Authorities Election Act to allow for more political party influence in municipal politics. Further, that the letter requests information on the rationale and desired outcomes of any such amendments. So just as a point of discussion, immediately following this notice of motion being in our last agenda, then I was approached by the media, as CAO Gowdy was saying. So an article went out in the Red Advocate, and I've got a paper copy. But the reason I bring that up is that it really resonated with a lot of people. I've had people approaching me about this, but my goal with this was as a result of being at Alberta Munis, and we went to a training session. Councillor Dallas and I were there, and I believe CEO Gowdy, or you too, Councillor Gold. Anyhow, a number of us were there, and we were listening to a panel of three people who talked about the merits or not merits, or the downside of having partisan politics. And I came out of there, and some of us in our discussions came out of there and feeling that we didn't know where this came from, first of all. And secondly, we didn't see the merits for our municipality. So that is the reason behind this notice of motion. I have since, a lot of you would get your Alberta Munis reports or reviews, and in there it says that one of the reasons that the Honorable Rick McIver is talking about this is what it was in his mandate letters. So the Premier has directed him to look at this. But it is really interesting, their closing statement in it. It says Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver has a long track record of listening to municipalities and carefully considering what local governments say they need. So I think we should hold him to that. I mean, this is just someone's opinion, but by sending this letter and saying we have concerns about introducing partisan politics into municipal elections, and basically asking what are they seeing the benefits would be. Just as my own personal opinion, I like being nonpartisan in terms of municipal politics. You can respond to the citizens in a way that you can listen to their opinions and not have this other influencing body behind you saying that this is the decision you have to make. You can just truly respond to the citizen.
Thank you. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Yeah, of course, fully supportive of this. I think, as the letter had alluded to that you'd mentioned there from Rick McIver, he needs to hear from various municipalities that this is not a good idea, and that, hopefully they'll take it under advisement. The beauty of municipal politics is that we are all independents, so to speak. We're here to do what's best for our community and listen to our ratepayers, and I think partisan politics will interfere with that. I fear that the citizens won't be heard, and in fact there will be hidden agendas. And yeah, no, it just I'm totally uncomfortable with that direction, and I kudos to Councillor Hoekstra for bringing it forward, because the minister does need to hear from hopefully every municipality.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I'm only speaking mostly because I want to show that there is support amongst council for it. And I totally agree. When I first heard that idea even being floated, I was like, why? Like, I have a hard time believing that there would be any real benefits that would outweigh any negatives. I totally echo that. I love municipal politics and chose to stay with municipal politics because it's exactly that. It's non-party. There's no party line to tote. You're not getting direction from someone else, getting pressure from your party saying that, no, you will vote like this, even though in your heart, you don't want to. The accountability around this table rests with each individual member here. We're not beholden to anybody else. I was at a recent conference, and of course, this is something that exists in other jurisdictions, and I found it disturbing when one of the speakers was introduced as Green Party Councillor Smith. And I just thought, like, that is so wrong to me. It's not the specific party affiliation in this regard. It's just that it's any party affiliation. I don't think that you need to be, in this context, standing on a political platform as far as associated with a party. It should be specifically tailored to your community, specifically reflecting and tailored to the individual that's running for office. In this context, that's the beauty of local government.
Thank you. From my perspective, I see this notice of motion as asking for some clarity and reasoning behind this decision. It would be interesting to know if, in fact, the reason it is here is because it was generated from other communities and approached either the Premier or Minister McIver. So I have no problem with adding it. As far as the merits of it, I would be interested in hearing exactly what it is they think that they may be. So that's why I see no harm in this letter, and hopefully it'll clarify a number of points. Councillor Hoekstra? Not required. Very good. And so, given that this was brought forward from October 10th, there is an expectation for a decision on this item. Is everybody prepared to vote now? You've had enough opportunity to speak. Please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimously in favor. Thank you. Given that we're approaching the end of our agenda, I will go through our next meetings. Those interested in putting them in their calendars, they're at home or here in council. Tuesday, November 14th is our regular council meeting here at in Chambers at 5:30, followed by one on Monday, November 20th, which is a committee of the whole meeting here at 5:30, and then Monday, November 27th, 2023, for a regular council meeting, same time and place. And also just a reminder, prior to this, the end of the month in October 30th and 31st, we've set aside for workshops. These are not council meetings per se, but certainly the public has a right to know that we're carrying on those discussions anyway. So in saying that, I think that brings us to item 8. I don't believe that I have passed over any items. So with respect to the WIPE Section 16 land item for in camera, I believe that is it. Councillor Gullickson.
I'd like to make a motion that we move in camera.
Very good. Record will reflect it's 8:30 p.m. Any discussion? Please go ahead and vote. Motion to move in camera is in favor unanimously.